ओम ज्ञानं तिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वरूपं कदामयं तत्सर्वदन्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुवैष्णवं च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं ध्यायगन्धगुणातीतं सजीवं साधुवेदं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपदान् सहायगन् श्रीविशाखावितं च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णा पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी जी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे श्री शून्यवादी पासदेश तारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपेकांत राधाकांत नमस्ते तप्त कंचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय गुरु श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। So we are continuing from the 13th morning walk. Krishna Kanti. Is the pure devotee more merciful than Krishna? Srila Prabhupada, yes. A real Vaishnava, a real devotee is even more merciful than Krishna. Take Lord Jesus Christ for example. It is said that Lord Jesus took everyone's sins upon himself. Yet he was crucified. We can see how merciful he was. Today, rascal thing, let us go on committing sinful activities. Christ has taken a contract to suffer for us. There is a long, thoughtful silence. The difference between matter and spirit, Dr. Singh. Scientists say that trees also have consciousness. Srila Prabhupada, yes, that is true. But a tree's consciousness and my consciousness are different. My consciousness is more developed. If you pinch my body, I will immediately protest. But if you can cut a tree, it will not protest. Actually, everything has consciousness in it. It is simply a question of degree. The more covered consciousness is by matter, the more it is considered material, and the more consciousness is developed, the more it is considered spiritual. This is the difference between matter and spirit. Spirit souls are everywhere. They are trying to come out of the earth, point to the grass. As soon as there is an opportunity, they want to express their consciousness. Those souls who descend from higher planets to this planet sometimes fall down to the ground in raindrops. Then they become grass and gradually evolve to higher forms of life. Dr. Singh. Oh, that is terrible. Shri. These are workings of subtle energy. What do the scientists know about this? Actually, their knowledge is carried away by Maya, illusion, and they are thinking, oh, I am a very learned scholar. Soul transplants. Dr. Singh, Srila Prabhupada, what about a heart transplant? We know that a spirit soul is within the heart, but nowadays doctor can replace an old heart with a new one. What happens to the spirit soul in each heart? Does the person who receives a new heart also get a new personality? Srila Prabhupada, no. Dr. Singh, why not Srila Prabhupada? Suppose I get up from one chair and go sit in another chair. Does my personality change? I may change my seat, but does that mean I have changed? Dr. Singh, but the heart is changed, and the heart contains the spirit soul. Srila Prabhupada, the Veda describe the heart as a sitting place for the soul. So when they transplant the heart, they simply change the soul's seat. The same soul remains. If they could prove that by changing the heart they have increased the patient duration of life, then what would prove they have got the spirit soul? But they cannot increase the duration of life because people have acquired their bodies by superior arrangement. You have this body and you must live within it for a certain period. If you simply change one of the parts of your body, that will not help you prolong your life. That is impossible. The doctor thinks that by changing the heart, they will increase the duration of life, but that is not possible. Dr. Singh. So, a heart transplant is a kind of artificial transmigration of the soul from an old heart to new one. Yes, it is something like that. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, Shloka 13, Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara prapte dhiras tatanam hueti. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from beyond to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. The changing heart is just a change of metal bodily organs. The heart is not the real source of life, and therefore changing the heart does not prolong the duration of life. Dr. Singh. Yes, most heart transplant patients live only for a short time after the operation, but it is possible to transfer the soul from one body to another. Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes certain Yogis do that. They can find a better body and transfer themselves into it. Dr. Singh. When the doctors perform a heart transplant, they take a heart from someone who has just died and exchange it for a weak heart in someone else's body. Does the soul from the dead heart change its place with the soul in the weak living heart? Srila Prabhupada. No, the soul has already left the dead heart. There is no question of bringing in another soul. Dr. Singh. Let me see if I understand you correctly. When the doctors remove the heart of a man who has just died, the soul has already left his heart. Then, when they transplant his dead heart into the body of the patient's soul passes into the transplanted heart. Srila Prabhupada, yes. The soul is destined to live in a particular body for a certain number of years. You may change whatever part of the body you like, but you cannot change the duration of life of that body. Dr. Singh. So the heart is just a machine and instrument, Srila Prabhupada. Yes. Yes, it is the sitting place of the soul. A mustard seed in a bag of mustard seeds, Dr. Singh. Srila Prabhupada, biologists tell us that there are many species of life that can reproduce without sex. Do the Vedas agree with this, Srila Prabhupada? Yes, Dr. Singh. So we can curtail the reproduction. Srila Prabhupada, no. How could we? How could we? There are so many living entities that have come into this material world to enjoy life, and therefore reproduction must continue. The material world is like a jail. You cannot put an end to jails. As soon as one man leaves the jail, another is ready to enter it. The same question was discussed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One of his devotees, Vasudev Datta, said, please take all the living entities of this entire universe and release them from material bondage. And if you think they are too sinful to be rectified, then just give all their sins to me. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, suppose I were to take this entire universe and all the living entities with it, this is only one of innumerable universes. It is just like a mustard seed, a huge bag of mustard seed. If you remove one seed from the bag, what would be the difference? So reproduction cannot actually be stopped. Living entities are unlimited in number and therefore it must continue. Dr. Singh, you have said that this material world is like a correction house to teach one to get out of the metal entanglement and cycle of repeated birth and death. Srila Prabhupada, yes, there you must practice Krishna consciousness. We have completed the 13th morning walk and continuing with the 13th morning walk. The 14th morning walk, December 1973. Srila Prabhupada is accompanied by Dr. Singh, Dr. W.H. Wolf, Rotake, and other students. The origin of interplanetary gases. Dr. Singh. The scientists say that at one point the Earth was composed of dust particles floating in some gaseous material. Then, in due course, this colloidal suspension condensed and formed the Earth. Srila Prabhupada. That may be, but where did the gas come from, Dr. Singh? They say it is just existed. Srila Prabhupada, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu, Kham Manu Buddhi Revacha, Ahankar Ityam Bhinna Prakritistada, earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. All together, these eight comprise my separated material energies. Here, Krishna explained that Vayu, gas, comes from him, and finer than Vayu is Kham, ether, and finer than ether is mind, and finer than mind is intelligence, and finer intelligence is false ego, and finer than false ego is the soul. But the scientists do not know this. They understand only gross things. They mention gas, but where does the gas come from? Dr. Singh, they cannot answer. Srila Prabhupada. But we can answer from Srimad Bhagavatam. We know that gas has come from Kham or ether. Ether comes from mind, mind comes from intelligence, intelligence comes from false ego comes from the soul. The scientists argue that before Darwin's biophysical type of evolution could take place, they had to be what they call prebiotic chemistry, chemical evolution. Srila Prabhupada, yes, and the term chemical evolution means that chemicals have an origin, and that origin is spirit or life. A lemon produces citric acid, and water produces many chemicals in urine, blood, and bodily secretion. That is a proof that life produces chemicals that not at chemical produce life. Dr. Singh. Scientists say that once the seed of life is present in the cells, then the living entity automatically develops and functions. Srila Prabhupada. Yes. What gives the seed? In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, sloka 10, Krishna answers this question. Bijam mam sarva bhutana vedi partha sanatanam osanapat Know that I am the original seed of all existence, and later 14 for Sarva Yonesu Pontaya Murtaya Sambhavati Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahadionir Aham Bija Pradhat Pita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed giving father, giving credit to primal creator. But in all humility, Srila Prabhupada supposed the scientists actually succeed in artificially creating a living cell. What would you say, Srila Prabhupada? What would be their credit? They would only be imitating what already exists in nature. People are very fond of imitations. If a man in a nightclub imitates a dog, people will go and pay money to watch him. But when they see a real dog barking, they don't pay any attention to it. Dr. Singh. Srila Prabhupada, the idea of chemical evolution comes from a Russian biologist in 1920. He demonstrated that before biochemical evolution, the Earth's atmosphere was in a state of reduction. In other words, it was mostly full of hydrogen with very little oxygen. Then, in due course, the sun's radiation caused these hydrogen molecules to form into different chemicals. Srila Prabhupada, this is a side study. First of all, where did the hydrogen come from? The scientists simply study the middle of the process. They do not study the origin. We must know the being there is an aeroplane. Indicate an aeroplane appearing on the horizon. Would you say the origin of that machine is the sea? A foolish person might say that all of a sudden a light appeared in the sea, and that's how the aeroplane was created. But what's the scientific explanation? The scientists' explanation are similar. They say this existed and then all of a sudden by chance that occurred. This is not science. Science means to explain the original cause. Perhaps the scientists can create imitation of nature, but why should we give them credit? We should give credit to the original creator, the God. That is our philosophy. Dr. Singh. When a scientist discovers some natural law, he usually name it after himself. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, exactly. The law is already there in nature, but the rascal want to take credit for it. Gerontology prolonging the suffering. Dr. Singh. They're actually fighting against the laws of nature, but often they take pleasure in the struggle. Srila Prabhupada. That pleasure is childish. Suppose a child builds a sand castle on the beach with great effort. He may take pleasure in it, but that is childish pleasure. That is not a grown man pleasure. Materialistic men have created a standard of false happiness. They have created a gorgeous arrangement for a comfortable civilization, but it is all false because they cannot create situation in which they will be able to enjoy it. At any moment, anyone can be kicked out by death, and all his enjoyment will be finished. Dr. Singh, that is why they say that God has not given us everything because we are not able to live here forever. Srila Prabhupada, but God has given them everything necessary to live peacefully and everything necessary to understand Him. So why will not they require about God? Instead, they do things that help them forget God. Dr. Singh. Now the scientists have organized a whole department in science called gerontology in which they study how to prolong life. Their real aim should be to stop the suffering because an old man is a great pain. Suffering from many diseases and suddenly the doctor increases his life and what is this profit? Dr. Singh, this is what they do with transplant, Srila Prabhupada. It is nonsense. Let them stop that. That would be an achievement. Let them stop all disease. That would be an achievement. They cannot do these things. Therefore, I say that all their research is simply a struggle for existence. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, chapter 7, Mamavamso Jivaloke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Mama Sastanindriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmented part. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. Student, now there is a shortage of oil. Srila Prabhupada, yes, we have built a civilization that is dependent on oil. This is against laws, and therefore there is no now an oil shortage. By nature's law, winter is now coming. Scientists cannot stop it and turn it into summer. They wrongly think that they are in control of nature. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna confirms us that living being thinks himself to be a doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the nature. The sun is now rising. Can they make it dark? And when it is dark, can they command the sun, get up? They do not realize that if they really want to conquer nature, they should try to conquer birth, death, old age, and disease. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, shloka 14, Krishna says, Devi Heishraku Namaya Mama Maya Duratanya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Taranti Te. The divine energy of mind, consisting of three modes of mental nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have ascended into me can easily cross beyond it. Dr. Singh, so is it very hard to overcome nature's laws, Srila Prabhupada? For the materialist, it is impossible. But if one surrender to Krishna, it becomes easy. The real origin of species. Dr. Singh, to explain why there are so many varieties of living entities, the scientists said at a certain time during evolution, the cells genes, which normally reproduce themselves perfectly for the next generation, sometimes make a mistake in copying. Sometimes, like the printing bread, at sometimes make mistake. In some circumstances, these mistakes or mutations have stood and different species of living entities have formed because of the difference in the genes, Srila Prabhupada. But that mistake has been continuing since time immemorial. For you will find that all the varieties of living entities have always existed. Therefore, the mistake is eternal. But when a mistake is permanent, it is not a mistake, it is intelligence. Dr. Singh. But scientists say that if there was no mutation, then there would only one kind of living entity in the whole universe. Srila Prabhupada. No, every living entity has different mind and therefore there are so many different species of life to accommodate the different mentalities. For example, we are walking here, but most people are not walking, coming to join us because they have different mentalities than we do. Why does this difference exist, Sri? Dr. Singh? Maybe it is a mistake. Srila Prabhupada. It is not a mistake. It is the desire. At the time of death, everyone will get a body exactly according to his desires. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, sloka 6, Yam yam vapis marambhavam tejate antakale varam tam evat montaya sada tadbhava bhavitai. Whenever, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, the state will he will attain without fail. When you are thinking that at the time of death exactly determines the next body, nature will give you the body. This decision is not your hand. But in nature, and she is working under direction of God. But science to have evidence the different species of life do arise by mistake. That is their Srila Prabhupada, that is their mistake. In the laws of nature, there are no mistakes. In railway cars, there are first class, second class, third class section. If you purchase a third class ticket by the mistake, go to the first class section. You will not be allowed to stay there. It is not a mistake that they are section, that is arrangement, but it is a mistake that you have gone to the wrong section. So God is go through that. He knows that all mistake that he will be. Therefore, according to the mistakes you commit, you enter a particular body. Here comes here. The body is ready. There are 84 like species of life, and the nature works assigning different bodies with mathematical precision. When the government builds a city, it builds a prison even before the city is completed because the government knows that there will be many criminals who will have to go to prison. That is not government's mistake. It is a mistake of the criminal because they become criminal. They have to go there. It is their mistake. In nature, there are no mistake. Krishna says, "Mayatapasena prakrti suyate sacharacharam hetunen kvantaya jagat vipra vipirivartate." This mental nature is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, and producing all moving on beings. Nature works under the supervision of God, Krishna. So how can nature make mistakes? So we can commit mistakes. We are living and our senses are imperfect and we cheat. That is the difference between God and man. God does not have imperfect senses. His senses are perfect. We are stopping here. Vancha kalpatru vaishya kripa sindhu vevacha. Pantatanam pavane vivashne kudamanava jagat Krishna. Thank you for joining me. Hare Krishna.